Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak from Arise News. Let's take a look at the front pages from around the world this morning, starting with this day. And it writes, Buhari, that's President Muhammad Buhari of Nigeria, destabilizing forces, weaponizing frustration of marginalized groups, urges African leaders to renew social contract with people. The president was speaking yesterday at the 5th conference of the Network of African Parliamentarians for Defense and Security Committees of the House of Representatives. Above the masthead for this day this morning, Okonkwo appointed FBN Holdings GMD Ekwe bows out. That's some banking stories there. And Facebook changes corporate identity to Meta. PDP in suspended animation as court rules on Secondus suit today, Friday. We keep an eye on that story for you. You can watch for details and development on Arise News.
And the Punch newspaper is leading with that story. Secondus suit ruling. Uncertainty reigns as 3,600 delegates arrive in Abuja for PDP convention. Anambra decides. PFN faults IPOB's no election call, agitators downplay poll, and personnel in 4 states on standby for reinforcements. And that's according to the NSCDC. There's more. 221 billion naira, 14-bed Aso Rock clinics construction begins November. Government workers' future shaky as 20 states shun contributory pension scheme. And finally, from the Punch newspaper, NIMSI suffers network delay amid race to meet SIM-NIN deadline. That report is on page 19.
And the Guardian newspaper is leading with PDP's convention. It says it's rocky as appeal court rules on Secondus today. Members fear another caretaker committee arrangement if ruling goes against party. And Finteri's upbit says convention will attract mass defection from APC. Also, PDP governors storm Ondo and woo Mimiko back to party. Mimiko collapses ZLP into PDP in Ondo to attend the convention tomorrow. Now, the picture just below this headline is the preparation in Eagle Square for tomorrow's People's Democratic Convention in Abuja, if that happens. In other headlines here, ICPC recovers 301 houses from 2 civil servants in Abuja. Also, the military claims killing ISWAP leader Bako and 38 others. In Plateau State, dramas, 8 lawmakers impeach speaker. That's it and more for the Guardian newspaper.
Well, here's the nation. PDP governors, elders head for showdown over Oyinlola. Riders, Mimiko's defection unsettles Ondo chapter, court to rule on Secondus suit today. Obi, others not bad from convention. It's all about the PDP for the nation this morning, but it also continues its coverage of the countdown to the Anambra election. INEC spending more than before, says Okoye, Inspector General of Police, while we are deploying massively, and IPOB has not called for poll boycott. For those looking for an update on the Kyari saga, police query Kyari on panel's findings. You can find details on The Nation. ICPC recovers 301 houses from 2 civil servants. And government winning war against Boko Haram bandits. Soyinka to government. That's the Nobel laureate, Wale Soyinka. Travel farms cumbersome.
And on the international scene, a quick look at the Times newspaper. Mortgage and tax bills to increase after budget. A million more will pay higher rate, say analysts. And French ambassador hauled it in over seizure of British trawler.
And the Metro newspaper leading with the UK and France in their raw. Kick in the scallops. France seizes UK ship as Macron reignites a Brexit fishing battle.
Well, for the Financial Times, the tensions ahead of the climate summit are the main concerns for the paper. As the world's two leading polluters have refused to cut emissions. And that's the Financial Times. Let's bring in Emmanuel Bello to review the papers with us this morning. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning.
Great to see you.
Good morning.
As usual, let's begin with this day. And of course, it's leading with what the president said yesterday at that meeting of parliamentarians in Africa. He says destabilizing forces are weaponizing frustration of marginalized groups. What exactly is the president saying here?
Well, he's talking to, he's putting on his statesman's, elder statesman cap, and of course a regional leader, on the continent level. He, from time to time, he plays those roles, you know, trying to talk to leaders across the subcontinent, and of course across the continent too. And he's saying that, well, part of the reason why we have insecurities here and there is because marginalized people are being weaponized. You know, their frustration is becoming the source of some of the crisis we are seeing. It's a great call from him, and it's something that a lot of people will say, why not look back home too, to your country, and look at some of the frustrations there and some of the frustration of some of the marginalized people. Because at the root of some of the crises, yes, especially even some of these agitations around the world, I mean, around the polity, is the issue of marginalization. The whole notion that people feel that they are not well represented, or that the president does not think of them as belonging. And he's been trying to change that tone, you know, trying to, you know, appeal to all the segments. His trip to the south east seemed to have signified that in one of his recent moves. So, yes, marginalized people can be frustrated, and those frustrations can be weaponized. That's what the president is saying. I don't know if you've noticed something at this one. This day was the only paper that got the Facebook story. I think that's a kudos to this day. And if you, apart from the Buhari story, very interesting stories on the pages of the This Day newspaper, especially in having the presence of mind to remember the Facebook story. I think the paper we've reviewed, that's the only paper that's carried the Facebook story. I think that is profound. I think I should mention it.
A story developing a follow-up, because we did carry it yesterday. Google restores e-Naira wallets to the Play Store. Yesterday, there had been news making the rounds about the e-Naira disappearing from the Google Play Store, but it's back.
Yes, and we're staying with the story. Again, the papers seem to be really leading in that direction. Most papers today are actually filled with the stories of the convention tomorrow. Seems to be the biggest thing that is capturing attention, and number two. But for us to have remembered still the issue of e-Naira, the issue of what's happening there, I think it's a good thing that we're staying on the story and actually doing follow-ups. Good storytelling, good newspaper work, and good journalism there too.
Paper. Secondo Suit's ruling. Uncertainty reigns as 3,600 delegates arrive in Abuja for PDP convention. Not a good way to start, is it?
No, and on my way here, I passed through the Eagle Square. It's the kind of reporting that this day did was very capturing of the mood, both last night and this morning. The kind of pomp and pageantry associated with these kind of events are not there, whether it's at the Wadata Plaza headquarters of the PDP or here at the Eagle Square. When I walked into this place, into the complex, I saw some drummers practically, you know, sitting around and looking as if the day is not happening, all because of the court ruling that is being expected. Normally, on a day like today, the town is abuzz, and you have all sorts of meetings going on, and especially the dancing and all of that. So the mood is a bit dampened. Some of the delegates yesterday telling me from the states whether they were not even going to come. But already over 3,000 strong party faithful are in town and waiting for this court ruling. If it doesn't go their way, some form of caretaker committee might be replacing what they intend on doing. And some of the issues are issues that they couldn't have grappled with. It's not just the court ruling. There are issues of consensus, the disagreement in Oyo State, where the Governor Makinde is supporting some other person for the chairmanship of the South. So there are other issues beyond even the court ruling. But by far, it is the strongest thing that is dampening the mood today in the PDP. And in the maybe few hours from now, we'll be knowing whether they are going to really converge just a few meters away from here for their convention. But for now, it's like this, they call it animated suspension. Everyone is suspended. People are staying back in their hotel rooms, waiting to see what will happen. But many of the party leaders are upbeat about it. Fintiri is saying that, look, these conventions are still going to happen, and some of the flags, of course, are up there already. The stage is set, but with everybody waiting for what the courts will say and how it's going to go. So that's where we are, and I think we're all waiting to see how today transpires, or how today goes today with all these events happening.
Definitely, Manuel, and Arise News will be waiting and bringing you more updates on the PDP's convention, which the Guardian newspaper is also leading with. But let's take a look at another story. Wale Soyinka says Nigeria is disintegrating before our eyes, and he's saying this in regards to COVID-19. He narrates a tortuous ordeal with COVID-19 travel processes returning back into the country. I remember, Emmanuel, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, of how people returning back into the country are paying at the airports to avoid taking the COVID-19 tests. What's happening with that?
And also with the story we did yesterday on the imbalance, very powerful statement, vaccine injustice, that we did yesterday. Wale Soyinka putting his voice on this also brings the matter to the fore. He is just narrating a personal story of how he had to stay back in Paris for another 3 days because of miscommunication between the Ministry of Internal Affairs on one hand and I think the Ministry of Health on the other hand, because people are supposed to update their records or their data onto some portals. So those who are away from the country, for like he was, didn't know about this, and so that affected him. He was told point blank that you can't travel to Nigeria. You can just imagine the harrowing experience there, just about body, and then you're told that you won't be able to travel. So he's putting all that in perspective and looking at though a personal experience and saying that, well, there must be some kind of understanding on how to really deal with this matter. But again, even in that story, you are seeing some effort by the federal government to see that they are serious about the issue of vaccines, making December 1st the deadline for you to show your evidence that you've been vaccinated before you even get into any kind of government office. But beyond that, what Wale Soyinka is saying is that there must be some form of real seriousness on the issue of vaccines so that we join the rest of the world in the fight against COVID-19.
I'll let you go. Just when you think you've seen it all, Emmanuel, 301 houses from 2 civil servants. How possible is that? The ICPC has recovered those houses.
Yes, especially those who also, say that only politicians are corrupt in this country. Yeah, you are seeing a situation where people in public offices, civil servants, getting into this kind of mess with all this kind of recoveries. And it's mind-boggling, and coming from the designing revelations on how much, was taken away from her, including very funny comical items like wedding gowns and invisible bras and the rest. And then now you're talking about houses. You will now understand how entrenched the crisis that, the anti-corruption agency are dealing with, how entrenched it is. And that it's not just, we just beam our searchlight mostly on people that are elected into office, but here are civil servants, people that are supposed to be in public office, naturally seen as, very disciplined set of people, and then you have some of them, being indicted with this number of houses, number of what has been seized from them. So, and like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The more you beam your searchlight, I'm sure more revelation, more of this kind of stories will reveal the sort of thing that happen in the public sector at times. Not just people that have been elected into offices, but even those that we consider to be civil servants. The argument is there that sometimes the civil servants they get away with this, and people that are elected in office are the ones that are...
Very many thanks for joining us this morning, Emmanuel Bello. We're grateful. And that's the press review this morning on Daybreak.